Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk Allison, could we please have a roll call vote?
Okay. Trustee Donnersberger?
Here.
Trustee Eck?
Here.
Trustee Farrell-Mayer? She's absent tonight. Trustee Kennedy?
Present.
Trustee Metz?
Here.
And Trustee O'Loughlin?
Here.
And of course, Mayor Hinshaw is here too.
Thank you. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight and remind you that we are broadcasting this meeting, video recording it. It is on Comcast Channel 6 for local Indian Head Park residents, also on Facebook Live and YouTube. Thank you, Andy. We have agendas up front. I don't see any. We're getting more agendas up front. So the first item of business is the mayor's report. Wolf Road update. So the village board has heard from the residents about having more community involvement on the Wolf Road project. So we, along with the county, will be creating a corridor advisory committee, a CAC, as part of a new public involvement plan, a PIP. Our village engineering firm Strand is working with the public involvement sub-consultant who worked on the Plainfield Road Phase 1 presentation to scope out the specifics of what the PIP will look like. And the agendas are up now. This has taken a little longer than anticipated because Strand wants to be as thorough as possible with the plans. Therefore, we're looking to be ready for the village October board meeting for the amendment to the Strand and Village Agreement and the revised county and village IGA, or the intergovernmental agreement, with this new scope. After that, it would go to Cook County's November board meeting, and after the county approval, we would begin preparing the PIP and coordinating with Illinois Department of Transportation, or IDOT. After the PIP has been approved by IDOT, we will hold the first CAC meeting. Looks to be in early 2023. Strand is also targeting mailing out all the responses to the public meeting comments in September. And then the final summary report, including all public comments, will be sent to IDOT as part of the approval process, at which point the public comments will become public. The county and the village have stated that they intend to include the participation of the Wolf Road Advocacy Group as part of the CAC when the PIP is being developed. All right, sidewalks. There are 4 main areas in the village. We have Plainfield Road and Wolf Road that are both in a Phase 1 study. And a reminder that the county has stated they will not be pursuing a 5-lane alternative for Plainfield Road. Acacia Drive, the northern half of Acacia Drive, is back on track to be completed this year. And again, as a reminder, there'll be a connection from that new Acacia Drive sidewalk to Blackhawk Park added this summer. In Joliet Road, we're waiting for state approval to begin a Phase 1 of a sidewalk along Joliet Road. Acacia Drive, the strike has ended. It's back in construction mode. The curb should be completed next week. Of course, all the construction plans I talk about are weather permitting. And the final paving should be completed in about a month or mid-September. Landscaping will be done in October. And again, this board has committed to making sure Acacia Drive looks good when completed. And lastly, the tollway. The bridge over Joliet Road is about 66% complete. The Joliet Road northbound on-ramp to the 294 will be closed for about 15 days near the end of August into September. Traffic on the I-55 flyover bridge will shift to the newly constructed portion of the bridge in September. And lastly, the Plainfield Road Bridge is about half completed and has shifted, and the traffic has shifted to the new southern section. So with that said, on this point in the agenda, yes, thank you, Pat. Pat reminded me that we wanted to move off the swearing in of our new officer. Brenda?
Yes. No worries. Are we just doing my?
What? Yep, and if you want to come up to the front, Brenda will do the swearing in up here. And family members, if anybody wants to get a picture, you can do it now or after or whatever. We're pretty casual here.
I, Martin H. Milas,
I, Martin H. Milas,
do solemnly swear that I will support
do solemnly swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of
a police officer of the Village of Indian Head Park,
police officer for the Village of Indian Head Park.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pat. And I think Chief Kernick is going to make some comments about Marty.
Marty can stay up here with me too, instead of running away. Marty comes to us on a lateral hire. He's been with us as a part-timer now for 1 year now, I think we're going on. He's retired sergeant from the Oak Brook Terrace Police Department, where he's done many, many jobs, probably as many as I've done since I've been back. But he's helping out with the vehicle maintenance and other things, and he'll be a fine addition to our department. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
And again, you guys are welcome to leave. You don't need to stay. If you want, that's great, but we will not be offended if you do leave. Okay, at this point, we will do public comments. If you want to make a comment, please come to the podium. Thank you, gentlemen and lady. Thanks for coming in. Jim, are you making a public comment? Thank you.
First time for everything. Hi, Jim Gazis, 6520 Wolf Road. Mayor Hinshaw, trustees, appreciate the overview. My public comment is regarding the PIP representation currently for Plainfield. I believe John is on that particular committee, as John is retiring in the near future. I would like to request, right? I mean, isn't that true?
Yeah.
Y'all are? Would it be possible to get another person along with or instead of John on that committee for representation?
If you want, I can address
Yeah.
that.
And again, that's just in the public commentary, and you can address. And then secondly, on the Wolf PIP, I think you did a great job, Mayor Hinshaw, explaining the timeline, et cetera. Are there any more details into how these people are going to be picked? I know there's a lot of different groups, factions, homeowners associations, the RAG, et cetera. As a homeowner that is on Wolf Road, and a stakeholder, something that I think was neglected in the Plainfield PIP, I believe there's got to be a few stakeholders that are actually homeowners that are on Wolf Road, since we will be impacted, especially two of the homes that were on the original list for eminent domain.
Thank you, Jim. John, do you want to answer the Plainfield Road?
It's funny you brought that up, because I actually have some very brief comments about the Plainfield Road PIP. The Citizen Corridor Advisory Committee really hasn't been established yet. The community managers, village managers, have been part of this process from the get-go, but we only looked at it from a management perspective. The CAC really hasn't been formed yet, even though they said that it would be. I mean, the PIP is 2 years old. A meeting is scheduled, according to the website, sometime this summer, so it should be within the next month or so. We have not been notified about any potential meetings coming up. And if you look on the Corridor Study website, it said potential members, and then they list the villages, Timber Trail subdivision, the sanitary district, St. Cletus Church, the school, of course. So it was kind of a nebulous list of potential participants, but we don't have any more information other than that. So the only thing from the study is it's going to be 3 lanes, 1 lane plus a center through lane, shared use path on one side, sidewalk on the other, and curb and gutter. And that's the only thing that I know of at the moment for Plainfield Road.
Anyone else? Karen? Sorry, Danielle.
Karen Barthel, 24 Sauk Trail. One of the things that I noticed in the heavy rain the other day when I was driving over the Plainfield Bridge was the amount of water that was pooling going on the west side of it. And it didn't seem like it was running off very quickly. So I don't know if they have all the drainage in yet, because the south side is higher than the north side, so maybe that was causing a lot of it, but that was something that I saw.
And the puddling was on what side, I'm sorry?
On the west end of it.
On the other side?
On the other side.
The Burr Ridge or?
Right,
yeah. Okay.
Theirs, not ours. Ours was dry, so. The other thing I'm wondering about, and I've heard so many rumors that I thought maybe the board or John could bring me up to date. I understand that Wilshire Green wants to put in a generator, a standby generator at 111 Acacia Drive. There's been an orange cone on the west side of their building marking where the generator is to be installed, I was told. After reading the IHP code, it states generators are to be placed in the rear of the buildings. I'm wondering if Indian Head Park has issued a permit. Did Wilshire Green receive variance from planning and zoning and the board to place it on the west side, which is so close to the street, as well as within 50 feet of bedrooms and doors of buildings in our complex? I understand that they have to run once a week for an hour. I don't know. I realize that there's, vegetation requirements around it, and I don't know if this is replacing an existing one that they have in the building or if it's something new to the building. So I'm looking for some answers.
Thank you. John, do you have updates?
Andy, we haven't issued a permit. Now, this has been an ongoing issue because they originally wanted to have diesel, and our code specifically says natural gas.
Okay.
The contractor has a page and a half of requirements. And this I sent them 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's been over a year since we...
So it's a long slog for them, and I am very well aware of placement,
Okay.
noise restrictions,
Mhm.
things of that nature. So the contractor was put on notice. So as the association.
I appreciate that because it's
No, I understand.
kind of a spot where they prime that thing for an hour and have it run, even on a overcast,
And-
dreary day. It's going to be noisy.
And I am going purely on memory now, so I apologize if I'm wrong, but my recollection is has to be natural gas.
Oh, it can't be propane?
Well, can't be diesel. So
So it can be natural gas or propane.
now I'm
That's what
the
village statute
right now
says.
my memory of the code is not great. So,
Okay.
but anyway, we are aware of it. The contractor is not happy with us. Oh well. Those
fine.
are the rules.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Danielle? Or did you?
Dale Holmquist, 11131 Indian Woods Drive. I was reviewing the just completed Thomas Engineering study of 45 acres, and it seems like it focused primarily on 4 areas. The analysis done by the engineers after speaking with village reps seemed extremely limited. During a village walk-around, it says only a few residents were present and interviewed about their issues. Recently, Western Springs held a public town meeting regarding its flooding issues at the village's south end. Residents completed questionnaires. Many were interviewed, plus there was an online complaint center established for issues and questions. A database was created to aid in the collection of feedback. Videos were also provided, and rain events were witnessed by their engineering firm. It seems certain assumptions were made about our Indian Head Park drainage issues without seeking resident feedback. Many with long-standing problems suffered in silence and had not complained about their issues. They were unaware that the village had initiated a study, but their input was important. Their concerns were overlooked. Has the Thomas Engineering in-person presentation, as detailed in the report, been scheduled yet? John DeRocher, you mentioned that there is a drainage study in progress for Joliet Road intersection and the south end of Indian Head Park. When will resident feedback be collected from the south end of the village? Are there study completion timelines and due dates for the south end reports? Will a town hall meeting be held for any new or pending drainage studies to seek out legitimate resident concerns? Doing so will ensure that findings are accurate and complete to assess village needs and resolve our problems. Studies are costly, and the engineering firm needs all relevant input to reach accurate conclusions. And I'd also like to provide an update on the creek situation at 7300 South. Approximately 1 year ago to the date, on last July 23rd, we again experienced high creek levels. It wasn't quite as high, maybe a foot below the flooding that we experienced last year. I do have videos and photos to share with you again, if you'd like me to forward them to you, to Strand, to MWRD, but the problem continues. Also, one extra side, the bridge conditions under the 294 and I-55 bridges are less than ideal. The weeds are excessive. The bridge floods when it rains. There's large rock chunks that they leave behind and tons of dirt. It's pretty messy. So if there's anything you can do to help us with that. Thank you.
Thank you. And John will have a report on the stormwater in his village administrator update later in the meeting. Anyone else? Danielle, now you.
Thank you. Danielle Shveska, 11235 Hiawatha. And this is in regards to the email that I sent yesterday afternoon about Flag Creek. I did include some images in that email, but I also have some additional printouts if I can approach and hand those off. Andy. So I'm here to specifically share some thoughts and ask for some feedback on the section of Flag Creek that borders the village along Keokuk. I believe we have 37 or 38 homes that face that creek area, and as you know, when the project first started, the Tollway Authority came and removed a significant amount of vegetation. Some of which they left behind was some of our invasive buckthorn, but they did take out a number of mature trees. I have noticed that there seems to be some erosion now happening along the village side of that creek, which is leading up to Keokuk itself, that could be impacted. More significantly, and I think what you'll see in these photos, is that there seems to be a large amount of trash and sludge that's collecting in the waterway. So it's hard to say what the impacts of the flora and fauna are in the area, which is obviously concerning. It seems like they did an attempt at a cleanup last week, but it appears that they just opened the barricades and allowed the sludge to go further down the creek, which is obviously less than ideal ecologically as well. So my questions are, with regards to replacing the vegetation, I've heard that the Tollway has offered to give us some tiny saplings and some grass seed, which is a great first step, but unfortunately would not mitigate things like erosion that's happening on that hill, nor will it address the full-scale removal of the large trees that were there previously. So knowing that we have a lot of residents that look onto this area and a lot of us that use the park down there with our kids, I kind of wanted to know if some of that money that we've talked about, that we've set aside for landscaping, and we just mentioned Acacia, like we've committed to make Acacia look as beautiful or better than it did before. Could we perhaps commit to doing something like that for that area so those residents don't have to look at the mess that's left behind, and perhaps encourage some plantings of things that are native species that might help to mitigate the erosion and to further beautify the village? So that would be my ask for consideration, please.
Thank you. John, did you want to,
The county,
can you use your microphone?
the Tollway and the MWRD have already been notified and sent pictures of what exactly you're talking about with Flag Creek. Also, the yellow barrier that they have erected was partially failed, and then there's a sludge island
It is quite significant.
south of the barrier
Yes.
that was identified also.
Yes.
Both have responded that they're investigating. So, and that was this afternoon. I got their responses back.
Okay. Well, that's good. Have they talked about replanting and perhaps what that might encompass and when it might
That was
happen?
not part of my conversation. That is a conversation I had with them a couple months ago. So once construction is done, or as we get closer to, it will be a continued conversation that we have with them. Because it's in their interest also to have the soil stabilized so that
Sure.
erosion doesn't happen and the
Exactly.
creek doesn't become silted over.
John, if I can add, Justin, Public Works, had talked to MWRD, and they have some special grass seed
Yeah.
for along that they are planning to plant, and that they have the saplings, and that's about what they do. Your idea for extra landscaping above and beyond, I think, is a good idea. In looking at Public Works Chairman and the Parks Chairwoman, if that's something that you guys want to talk about in your respective groups, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, and I think it's a good opportunity for the village to kind of remove some of those invasive species as well. So if you took out some of that buckthorn and then replaced it with some useful trees that contribute to the ecological setting of our village, I think that would be lovely.
John and I have talked about, now it's kind of a wild idea, but a sidewalk or a path along, so kind of like a river walk, could call it a creek walk. I think that's ways out and may not be feasible, but I think
Well,
the
then
creek
you definitely
is-
don't want it to erode.
Yeah. No, not
Trust
a
me.
road. But anyway,
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
And my other suggestion I think I included in my email is if this is something that we as a village don't feel that we're getting a satisfactory response on, like I have suggestions about contacting the IEPA. I'm sure they would be thrilled to come down and get their eyeballs on that horrid sludge situation. So I'm happy to help as needed.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Amy?
More questions than comments, actually.
Can you name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, Amy Eckert, 102 Cascade. In April, a letter was sent under Mayor Hinshaw's signature to the cannabis, I believe it was the newly licensed cannabis dealers, and it was reported out at board meetings that there were 2 responses to that letter. Has there been any additional contact with those 2 companies, for lack of a better term?
I have not. I'm not sure.
Within the last month, I reached out to one. They said, okay, nice, and I have not heard anything back.
Okay. And it also mentioned in the letter, and maybe this is just a procedural question. The letter, the way I read it, was part of the Economic Development Committee. But then the letter kind of referenced that the entire board agreed to this. But I don't see anything in any of the minutes from April until now at a board meeting where it was reported out that this letter was actually going to go out.
So,
But I guess my question is, what's the procedure? Does the committee make that decision, or does the village board need to make that decision?
well, speaking on behalf of the Economic Development Committee, there's been no decision made. I mean, it's just something that's in discussion, and quite frankly, at this point, it seems to be a moot point because the two vendors that were interested have really not responded over the last.
Okay. Well, I guess, and that was part of it, the procedural. So it would be the Economic Development Committee that would propose something like this, and then the entire board should approve the letter before it goes out,
And then and then it goes to. Oh, you mean the letter?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't
That
know
I
that the letter needs to be approved because the sales of marijuana was
Right. Yeah. No, I
approved,
know we
and
have.
so
I know we have that approval. Yes.
we have sent letters out about the triangle, that it'd be a good
Right.
place to have a business.
Right.
So I believe that was the effort was targeting. So I
Well,
don't know that
it was more of a procedural question on how committees feed into basically the village board. So there really hasn't been any further interest.
No, we're also dealing with two property owners who may or may not be willing sellers.
Okay. Okay. And I guess my other concern, and I know that this is maybe not going to go anywhere, but is in the letter the mention of the village assisting in getting a billboard put up. And I don't know what our sign ordinances read, or if they would have to be adjusted for something like that.
It's part of the special use process.
Okay.
So a public hearing has to be held before planning and zoning.
Okay.
Public notice has to be made. It's a long process.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that. That's why I was asking the question. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Lawrence? And again, a reminder, there is another opportunity near the end of the meeting, but Lawrence?
Good evening, everyone. Lawrence Brannon, 6500 South Wolf Road. I was at a economic development meeting a couple weeks ago that you guys had. My concern was the shop.
Yeah.
Oh,
Talk about it.
sorry. Is that better? I'll talk slower. No, my concern was we were talking about the shopping center on Joliet Road and Wolf Road, and the concern was I think there was going to be money given, $500,000 to $750,000 towards the facade renovation. Is that right? So. Sure.
There are a couple of things on the table. One of them is helping to get a residential loan, maybe there's some loans and some restrictions.
Okay, yeah, because that was my concern. I thought the village was just going to write him a check, I thought the village was just going to write him a check, which is not what the intent.
Never been. And this is,
Right.
it has not come before the board
Right.
to talk about these. It's been a discussion at economic development, and it
Right.
kind of started because years ago the village did that for Brookside
Oh, sure.
Plaza.
Right.
And so, thinking that seems to be a better looking, no offense to either mall.
right,
But
right.
anyway, sorry.
Oh,
Keep
yeah,
going,
no,
Lawrence.
Tom, yeah, because it was just a matter of just to renovate it, to give it a facelift, to make it look better, I'm sure. Right. Right. Oh, right. Correct. Right. Okay. Terrific. Okay. Well, thank you. That was my question.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Tom.
Anyone else? I don't see anybody coming up, so again, there is another point. Okay, moving along to the agenda item of the consent agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion for that, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as established.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sean and Brenda. Anybody have any questions or comments? Chris, do you want to read the financial report, please?
Sure. Cash on hand for the month ending July 20, or actually this report is for the month ending July 2022. Cash on hand as of June 30th was $3.2 million. Total for all warrants in July, $523,426. Total revenues, $564,155. And our ending bank balance, again, right about where we started, at $3.3 million.
And I just want to point out that we are also looking to approve Noreen Costello for another year as the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then Michael Vitale for another 3-year term on the Fire and Police Commission. We're very thankful for their volunteering and anybody else who serves on any of their village boards. Any questions or comments about the consent agenda? Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayer. She is absent tonight. And Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's been approved. On to the next item. Would somebody like to make a motion about the approval of
Sure.
the payables?
I'll make a motion to approve the payables for July 2022 in the amount of $523,426.11.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris and Sean. John, do you want to go through some of those?
Although all of the vendors that we pay are listed in the board packet, I would like to point out that we have engineering fees for 2 firms, Strand Associates and Thomas Engineering. For Strand, their bill was about $59,000 in total. $13,000 of that, thereabouts, was for Phase 1 of Wolf Road. That is 100% reimbursable by the county. About $22,000 of that amount was for Acacia Drive Engineering, 70% of which is reimbursable by the state of Illinois. And the balance of the $59,000 is used for water main engineering and pump station engineering. And those are projects that will be constructed later on, either later on this year or in the upcoming year. And there'll be more on that. That's only for engineering, not for physical construction. For Thomas Engineering, the bill was about $51,500. $29,000 of that was for the 45-acre storm sewer study, which I will be talking about more at the end of the meeting. Under my report, $16,000 of that was for road repair, and $5,000 was for our sanitary sewer program. Now, this is just engineering, not physical construction. So those are some of the highlights of the bills in the board packet.
And I know one bill that wasn't in there this month, but we'll see it next month, was the Wolf Road Town Hall meeting that we had at the Highlands Middle School gym. I think that was a meeting that a lot of people wanted the board to have, and I think that bill was $6,500.
And I'm in the process of talking to the county of whether or not that is reimbursable under the scope of our agreement. But it was a needed meeting, so one way or another, we'll pay it.
All right, any questions or comments about the payables? Okay, I don't hear any. Clerk Allison, I think you just turned your mic off. There you go.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
And Trustee.
Aye.
And I think you took your mic off for that you said you wouldn't be calling on Rita for the rest of the meeting. Okay. Next item, item C. Chris?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to pass Ordinance 2022-31, granting a variation to 6395 Arrowhead Court.
I'll second.
Thank you,
Second.
Chris and Sean. Andy, is this you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, so for 6395 Arrowhead Court, the homeowner has petitioned for a variance. The variance is in order to construct a screen room and relocate an air conditioning unit that is at the location of the current where the screen room would go. And the reason that the homeowner would need a variance is because as the plans are, it is outside of the buildable area. This is largely due to the kind of triangular shape of the lot. And so village staff, as well as a 4-0 vote on the Planning and Zoning Commission, is recommending that a variance be granted for the construction of the screen room and for the relocation of the AC unit to the east side of the home. Typically, our village code requires AC units to be in the rear yard. That is why a variance is needed. And the adjacent homeowners have no issue with it.
I think I remember at the meeting, the distance from the AC unit to a neighbor is farther than we require, or
Yes.
farther than in the back of the house or something like that?
Yeah, it's I believe it's about 40 feet from the property line and about 65 feet from the actual neighbor's house.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
How big is the sunroom going to be?
Do you have that information? Yeah.
This is our petitioner.
Yes.
Yes. Good evening, all. Margaret Brennan, 6395 Arrowhead Court. I have the building here. It's 15 by 13, and it would be covering an existing concrete pad that's about the same size that's back there right now. So it's not really going much further than where I'm already at. Okay?
Thank you.
Any other questions about the building design or anything? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that speedy access to the information. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Metz?
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy?
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin?
Aye.
Trustee Eck?
Aye.
And Trustee Donnersberger?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, that's been approved. Thank you. Charlie, I think you have the next several.
Yes, the Planning and Zoning Committee was very busy this last meeting. We had one that Chris just introduced, and there's 7 more to go through. So thank you for your patience. For the first one is I make a motion to pass Ordinance 2022-25, granting a special use for a shed at 6588 Shabanaw Road. I need a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Charlie and Brenda. Andy?
Yeah, so the petitioner's Mr. Steve Ziamba. He is here today if anyone has any questions. This is for a shed, an existing shed. The shed is currently structurally sound, but the homeowner is waiting on any painting to see whether or not it's approved. The shed is located at least 10 feet from the property line, and if approved would be subject to screening, inspections, etc. This shed, village staff recommended approval. The Planning and Zoning Commission was split, however. It was a 2-2 vote. The 2 in favor, I think, felt that the homeowner had enough material to merit a hardship and therefore voted yes. And I think that the 2 that voted against felt that the garage size was probably a little bit too big to merit the shed. But so staff is recommending yes. The Planning and Zoning Commission was split, and a 2-2 vote is technically not a recommendation. And with that, we have Steve, if you want to say anything, or we also have some pictures that you sent in if you want to show the board.
I didn't bring pictures.
No, we got them on
okay.
the TV. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, I just have 4 kids riding lawnmower, toys, rakers, and I got it's a 2. I could fit 2 cars in the garage, but it has a little space. I don't know if it's Tom. You might know this because you sold me the house. So, basically, I need room for all my lawn equipment and rake, shovels, gasoline cans. So my wife was nice enough. She knew I was hurting on space in my garage. Plus, I have a toy car in my garage that I work on. So I got all these little projects going. So I need space. I need a lot of space. But then I got 6 bikes, and so my wife, for my birthday, bought me a shed and had friends of mine build a shed for me, and then realized the permit was needed, so I applied for the permit. So anyway, the shed got 90% complete, and then I found out you're not supposed to have a shed. So basically, that's where it's at right now, and I just asking for approval because I don't want to leave my stuff out on the driveway or the side drive. You know, I have a riding lawnmower and bikes, and then if I don't have room, the kids will be putting their bikes everywhere, and it becomes a circus, you know. So I try to put stuff away. So that's the story. I don't know if there's any questions or concerns.
Any questions for Steve, as long as he's at the podium?
And what does your fellow residents, what's their thoughts behind this?
I'm sorry?
What's your fellow resident?
Well, I got the approval from both of them that back up to me. I'm sort of on the corner, so I have 2 people. We share backyards, you know. And there's heavy landscaping between all of us. And so they signed off on it. Nobody seems to complain. It's, you know, once it's painted, I'm going to paint it the same color as the house. You really don't even see it because it butts right up behind the garage, you know. No, as far as I know, I don't think anybody complained. And they signed off. So...
Will there be landscaping around it?
Not yet.
But there will be?
Well, I have evergreens on my side drive that sort of block. You really can't see it unless you're looking for it. But I told at the meeting that if I need to put more evergreens around it, I'll do whatever it takes, you know. I mean, it's not, I can do that, you know, and that's not an issue. I mean, I keep the front of my house very nice. The back, we have a trampoline and stuff because I got kids, you know, so. But I keep my house up. It looks nice. I think great. So, you know, I'm not an eyesore, you know, so.
Can you talk about the landscaping, how that has worked, what is required? I think you've done some inspections from priors and kind of cover that.
Yeah, we do. So the general rule that we've kind of been going off of is the same kind of in screening requirements we have for if you have a trailer parked outside. And the rule is about 75% of the height of the structure. And so kind of like with the Bartlett homes where we went through first and most of them were given approval, we then conducted screening inspections to see if they had gotten started because you can't expect it to grow instantly. But so basically the way that we've been handling it is we're looking at the shed from the adjacent properties and from the rear of the thing as well. And it has to be screened on 3 sides, screened from the street, and that's about it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sean, did I see you? No.
Yeah, not necessarily a question, I guess just comments more of, so back 2 years ago now, this became, well, actually, I think it was a little longer than that. It was almost when the pandemic started that we sent the letter out to the Bartlett communities. And so as many residents know that we had ordinance in the village for many years of against fences and sheds. And we started a committee. And at that time, it was my understanding that most people were looking to allow people that had something that was already in place due to the fact that they were limited to space. I don't see that as an issue here. So that's one of my first thoughts that are coming up is the reasoning behind of allowing the variance. One of the major ones was in that particular section of town, they lived on slabs. They didn't have basements. A lot of those homes were 1-car garages, not 2 or 2.5-car garages. My concern here is, like you, I have 3 kids, bikes, all the stuff. I have 4 cars. I don't have space either. I am against putting a shed in my own backyard because I know it's what I believe a majority of the community is against. So I'm having a hard time here reconciling allowing this because I'm concerned it might open floodgates to more. This seems to be a situation of, rather than asking for approval, we're looking for forgiveness because we already bought it and built it 90%. You're looking to do this not because you're limited to space, but you've used the space that you have, and you're looking for more space. And that's a concern that I have that what does that lead to down the road? So I don't know if that's necessarily a question, just a thought process of where I'm coming from. That again, when we did the committee, we looked at 45 acres in Old Town specifically has larger larger lots, larger homes, more adequate space for things, as opposed to the Bartlett community. So I don't know if there's really a question in there for you, but just more of a.
Well, yeah, I get the rules. I think, the problem is you can't compare, a family that has, no kids and then somebody that has, you know what I'm saying? So there's different, and I think, well, it's your call. I considered adding on to my garage, going out a little farther, but I think there's probably restrictions on how far I can build a garage out. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure when they did the house, they considered that and probably took it to the, arranged the house. I mean, that was my initial plan, but I think because I'm on an angled lot, then I'm going to have issues about a lot line. You know what I mean? So I should have bought a house with 3-car garage, but or 4. But you know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to make a big stink out of it, but I mean, if you're going to approve it for other people and not for me, then I'm going to have a little concern about that. And I think some already got approved.
I don't know that there's
I feel like I'm being.
Though, but I hear what you're saying, that it would be unfair, obviously, if we did it for other like situations to yours and not yours. I totally agree with that, but I don't recall a situation similar to this.
So if I can add to that, I share Sean's concern that this is going to open the floodgates, and so I'm sort of on the fence. I understand where you're coming from, but I also understand what the village wants to maintain in terms of its identity. I'd feel more comfortable if I saw pictures of your lot and where it was going to go and how it was going to look. I mean, I saw pictures of what's in your garage, but that doesn't help me visualize your lot.
I submitted pictures before the first meeting, of where it is and actual pictures.
Do you have those, Andy?
I don't have them.
They're not readily available.
Yeah.
We can, we could have this, we could bring this up again next month, and then we can provide all the pictures.
Can we do that so we can look at it and feel more comfortable?
Yeah, I wanted to echo pretty much what Sean said. I'm concerned about having a 2.5-car garage. I assume you have a basement, and I've got 4 kids. I've got 4 cars. We had 6 bikes in our garage at one point. We still kept 2 cars in there all the time, and I'm very afraid of the precedent. I don't want to see sheds in my neighbors' backyards, and I'm sure they don't want to see one in mine. So it's a matter of, just because you have a lot of stuff, I don't know that that's a hardship. So yeah, I'm against having it's not personal. I'm against having a shed.
What's the size of it?
In this situation? Because, as Sean pointed out, apartment homes is different. They have 1-car garages. They have slabs, and nowhere to store anything.
Okay.
A 2.5-car garage is a much different situation.
Okay, but
I
had one neighbor right across the street from me that puts his riding lawnmower right in his driveway. He has a side. He's got all this stuff lined up. I mean, I don't think that's very aesthetic. I mean, what's the point of not having a shed? Because of aesthetics, or, you know what I mean? But I know a lot of people in my subdivision that aesthetically their house is not kept up very well, So I don't know. And if you put up a kid's playhouse, what's the difference between that and a shed? You know what I'm saying? I see it. I have a neighbor that has a playhouse that's been up for 30 years that looks like it's ready to fall down right in the middle of his backyard. Is that okay? You know what I mean? So I don't want to get argumentative. I understand you got rules, but it's, I see people with a lot of stuff in their backyard, in front yard. So, in mine, so that was a little. It's not that I put it in my front. You can't even see the shed. The only people that could see the shed are my 2 neighbors, and they signed off on it. They're fine with it. So if that's the concern, you know what I mean? So
what's the size of your lot?
It's the precedent that it sets.
Yeah, I understand, but then you already set a precedent by approving it for some people and not me. That's all. That's the only, I just want to know what
Under different situations.
right, well, what is a situation that, you know what I mean, that,
Yeah,
I guess what's the parameter? What,
guess-
you know, I don't want to feel like I'm being like, I felt a little bit like I was not approved, you know, I mean, give me a reason, you know, why it's okay for somebody to have one and not another, you know?
Well, again, from a high level, it's the community that we're talking about. If John, correct me, it's early 60s, it was annexed from Countryside into Indian Head Park. Or unincorporated, Cook County. A lot of those people, again, slabs, one-car garages, necessity, they had no room at all. Those sheds went up. We had the ordinance, we wrote a letter to them that they were going to have to take them down. And they came back to us and said, we have no room for things.
Mm-hmm.
That situation, from what I'm seeing here, the difference is it's a need because you've outgrown the space that you have. It wasn't a limitation of space. Like Chris said, he's got 4 kids, 4 cars. I've got 3 kids, 4 cars. We don't have sheds. We follow the rules. My lot sounds a lot different than yours. I don't even think I have room in the backyard the way that mine goes. That's the difference that I see.
Okay.
Is that theirs is more of a necessity because of the limitations that they have on their properties, where you have just outgrown what you have, but I think there's enough room there. If I've got a car that sits in the garage too. Thought about selling it so I can park my car in there in the wintertime every single winter, but I don't. I deal with it too. It's the last house I had was a corner lot. I had a shed in the backyard. I had a riding lawnmower. I loved it because it wasn't in my garage, but not here. So again, I think it's a different scenario between the two communities that we're talking about in Indian Head Park. That's why we kind of allowed them. I'm scared that we're going to have 50 come in every single meeting in Old Town and 45 acres looking for a variance. At what point do we say no? So that's what I'm struggling with.
Okay.
And again, nothing personal. I totally understand your situation. I'm in a very similar situation.
All right.
Charlie, you've been patient.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's the size of your lot?
It's a pie-shaped lot. I don't have the dimension. I turned in the paperwork, but I don't have
okay.
I'm on a corner lot, but it's like a pie shape, you know, because I have streets on each side. So, yeah.
Any other questions for Steve? Steve's been at the podium a while.
Yeah, it's tying up the whole meeting.
Okay, I don't hear. Thank you, Steve. Pat, can you maybe address a couple things? One, because planning and zoning was a tie, so I believe that means it was not approved, what that means to this board, and then how the board should look at individual cases, maybe, or requests.
Sure. So by statute, because it didn't receive an affirmative recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, it needs 4 affirmative votes as opposed to a simple majority of the trustees. So it needs 4 votes in the affirmative to pass. And then just generally, I think your question is related to special uses. That's why there's standards, and each one of these cases is adjudged based upon those standards and on a case-by-case basis, and that's why the village processes these individually, and it's up to the board to weigh whether or not the standards have been met in each individual case.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I have a question for Pat. Because there's a number of these tonight, how do we handle, I don't want to make a decision here. I don't know how to phrase the question. It sounded like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Trustee Donnersberger, that maybe you're looking to table this to the next meeting to get an idea of his specific situation or get a better idea before you were looking to make a vote in the affirmative or negative?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
So
hoping
if that's
for.
the case, do we want to do this for the rest of them too?
Mm-hmm.
No, they're different, Sean. They're all 4-0 votes in favor by the Board of Trust, by the Planning and Zoning.
Where are they located?
West of Wolf.
Well, I think it does sound like we need to take a better look at these. I did attend the zoning hearing and the pictures were shown, but maybe we need to educate ourselves before we vote on this. And
Yeah, I
it could
agree,
take some
because I
time.
don't want to be voting against something and then have it discriminatory in terms of what everybody else is doing. So I personally would like to have it tabled so I could look at all of them.
So if that's what you would like, Trustee Donnersberger, I would suggest a substitute motion to continue the matter until the next village board meeting, if that's what you'd like to do.
Yes. Do I need to say that?
I think you just did. And then it would need to be seconded.
I'll second it.
Okay, Eileen and Charlie, to continue this matter, Pat, roll call vote, or
Yes, please.
Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote?
Are we voting on just this?
Yes.
Just this one to
Yes,
continue?
just this matter.
Okay, all right. All right, Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayor, oh, I'm sorry, I'll pass on that one. Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
And Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
That's been approved. So we will get the planning and zoning packet for this one out. And Steve, I think if any trustee wanted to come look, would that be okay? And it is on the corner, so you can almost see everything from the road. So I don't know that anybody would need to go on the property, but it is a little, right. Thank you. If you want to, I'd say get in touch with Andy, and Andy can help coordinate. Is that fair? Yeah. Okay, thank you all.
Can I suggest that if we do this, we do it all at once, so he doesn't get 6 separate meetings?
Right.
Well,
Then you would-
let's not do that.
Oh, we can't.
2 and 2s, please. Yes, thank you. Sorry.
And I'll let you pair up on your own, because I don't want to have Andy try to coordinate everybody, and then with Steve, and could get ugly. Time consuming. Okay, next item. Charlie?
I make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-26, granting a special use permit for a shed at 6616 Osceola.
Bless you.
Gesundheit. And I need a second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Charlie and Eileen. Andy?
Yeah, so this is for a special use for a shed, and the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-0 to recommend its approval. Staff is recommending approval. Both staff and Planning and Zoning feel that it meets the criteria of this shed special use. And that's about it, unless anyone's got questions.
Yeah, what's the reason for the shed?
Are the homeowners? No. It's just storage.
But it's existing?
Yeah, this is an existing one.
And how old is it?
At least 10 years. Something
And it
like
wasn't
that.
allowed when it was put in?
No, it wouldn't have been. No sheds would be allowed when they're put in.
Is there a chance we can table all these?
Yeah.
So we can have a chance to take a better look at these?
Do we have to do them all individually?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless, are you talking about the fences and the sheds? Or just the sheds? Because there's both on the
Just
agenda.
Just the sheds.
Okay. So, let's see.
There's a motion made and seconded at this point.
Right, so we need a substitute motion to continue matters E, G, H, and I to the next village board meeting. Is that what you'd like to do, Trustee Metz?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, thanks, Chris and Eileen.
Which ones were those again?
All the sheds.
All of the sheds.
E, G, H, I, Trustee Eck.
B, E, F, G?
E, E, G, H, I.
You okay, Charlie?
I'm looking at a different list.
You want a current list?
Bear with me one moment, please.
I got an updated one here, or current.
Should be a motion index.
But it's all the ones with a shed.
Right, so just for the record, it's E is 6616 Osceola, G 6534 Cochise, H is 6324 Pontiac, I is 6529 Cochise.
Okay, I'm in sync with my two lists.
Okay, so I think we have the substitute motion by Chris and Eileen. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Okay, let's do Trustee Metz.
Aye.
And Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
I'll abstain.
Okay, one abstain. Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
And Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Okay, I think I've got them all now.
All right, that's been approved. So then I think, Andy, you're going to get the planning and zoning packet out to everybody. And I think going forward, if we have these on the agenda, we should get planning and zoning packet out to the board.
That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
And I guess if anybody wants to go see any of the other properties, talk to Andy, and he can talk to the homeowner. And if you want to go 2 by 2 to maybe save time, or could do it all, say Saturday afternoon, some Saturday, somebody go at 1, 2, and 3, or whatever. So.
I would recommend against that.
I'm sorry?
I would recommend against that, out of an abundance of caution. But it is village business that
It's
you're
still-
attending.
Yeah. Andy, can I make a request on the board packet? Can you, or not the board packet, the planning and zoning packet, can you incorporate the ordinances around this with that, so we have a refresher? Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, so I think we left item F out because it has a fence. Charlie? That's 65.
I make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-28. No, that's the wrong one. Bear with me, 6534. It's the one above it. 2022-27, granting a special use for a fence at 6534 Pontiac.
That's we need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Charlie and Sean. Andy?
Yeah, so this is for a, it's kind of similar to the fences that we dealt with in the Bartlett homes, with the exception that this is a wooden fence, and unlike the Bartlett home fences, it's not a boundary fence. It does not go around the entire property. It is only kind of near the corner of the house. It is used primarily for screening their garbage cans and lawn equipment. And this fence was built in 1957, so kind of like similar to the Bartlett homes. It was built prior to incorporation, prior to the village being a village. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended 4-0, and staff is recommending approval for the special use as well. And part of one of the criteria in there is that it would be removed prior to sale or transfer of the property. And with that, I can take any questions.
And the village, would we be taking out that fence like the Bartlett homes?
No, that was not part of the.
But Bartlett homes, we are committed to
Yeah.
taking some out.
Yeah.
Or all out, some?
Yeah, because we were concerned because a lot of those fences are kind of intertwined with trees and touching other people's property. So we kind of wanted to take the initiative there. I think that was the thinking of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So this fence was in there before the ordinance?
Yeah, this fence was in here before the.
Grandfathered in?
Before the village was incorporated.
Yeah, right. That's what my point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy, this hiding garbage cans, lawn equipment. You may have said this. I missed it. I take it it's on the side of the house.
Yeah.
Back,
rear, side. Yeah.
Back, rear,
It's mostly kind of the rear.
More to the rear of the house. Approximate size, length, width, height.
I think it was like 10 feet. It's not that long. It's pretty small.
It's more. Didn't we cover screening?
So the fence ordinance, it allows trellises for screening purposes. This is not a trellis, although commercial areas are allowed fences for screening purposes.
Okay.
Couldn't we just grandfather this in if it's been there that long?
We actually have in our code of ordinances, we grandfathered it in for a number of years, and that has long expired. It's
What-
one of the nuances of our ordinances.
What happened, I believe, like with Bartlett Homes, when they were brought into the village, they were grandfathered in, but they had 10 years to address them, and it looks like nothing was done after 10 years. Maybe some residents did, and maybe some didn't, but it doesn't look like the village took any action. A little before my time.
As a matter of history, the last time the village seriously addressed this issue was 1985. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I got a number of complaints about sheds and fences, so we started this process.
Okay, any other questions or comments about this fence at 6534 Pontiac? I don't hear any. Clerk Allison, roll call, please.
Trustee Eck.
I object to the portion that requires the fence to be removed, but that's to be discussed later.
I think that maybe
That's
it's
an
an
aye.
aye, right?
That's an aye.
Yep.
So
Yes.
you
So he-
object to what? The fence being removed when they sell?
Yes.
Okay.
But at this point, we're getting a aye or nay.
It's an
yes
aye
or
on,
no.
it's an aye on the motion with an editorial comment that,
Okay.
All right, thank you.
regarding the removal.
Clerk Allison?
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
And Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That has been approved. So if I'm following on my sheet, we are down to item J,
Yes.
Resolution 04-2022, Agreement with Wilshire Association. Is this John?
Yes. As part of the road program, which we'll be talking,
Don't we need a motion?
Oh, absolutely.
I'll make a motion to pass Resolution 04-2022, approving the agreement with Wilshire Association, subject to village attorney final approval.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sean and Chris. Yes, Chris, thank you. That was my mistake. John?
mine too. This is part of the road program. What we're doing is, for economies of scale, we are redoing Acacia Circle as part of this year's road program. And since this goes through around the Wilshire buildings, they would like to tag on to the project and redo some of their parking areas. And so we went out for bid for this project in its entirety, separating out the Wilshire Green portion and the Villages portion. So if Wilshire Green decides not to join us in this bid, we don't lose out on our portion of the bid pricing. So basically, this is just a guarantee that they will reimburse us within 30 days of all work being performed. And they are voting on it this week, or early next week.
And why would we do this?
For economies of scale, and since we're having a single contractor do the work, it makes sense for the contractor to be out there doing work simultaneously.
And some of the parking is right next to the road, correct?
Almost all of it is right next to the road.
And have we done this before in the past?
We've done it before with Acacia when we redid some of the roads in 2014. So this is not without precedent in the village.
So John, would this be similar to a situation if I owned a home with a neighbor that we shared a driveway, and I had 65% of the space and they had the remaining 35%? We're going to get one person to do the whole thing.
Correct.
But I'm paying for it all, and my neighbor's going to reimburse me?
Correct.
My neighbor doesn't reimburse me?
We have legal means throughout in the agreement to cover that.
But we believe that they will pass.
I'm not suggesting at all that that's, but I'm just asking the question.
Any other questions or comments on this? And we don't see any issues with timing and schedule, and now that the strike is over, we're back to normal?
Correct. As normal as we can be. Sorry.
Anybody else? Okay, Clerk Allison, please.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
And Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's been approved. And then item K, would somebody like to make that?
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-32, awarding the bid for the village's 2022 road program to Schroeder Asphalt Services in the amount not to exceed $716,459.16, which is our portion of the $996,317.81. The additional $279,858.65 will come from Wilshire Green Association.
Second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sean and Charlie. That was a very thorough motion. Any questions or comments about that? John, anything to add?
No, my comments stand.
I just want to add that we're doing this without going to issuing bonds, borrowing any money, no referendum. We've just, through good fiscal management, have set the money aside to be able to do these roads without having to borrow money.
Yes, and we're also using a $500,000 grant that we received from the state of Illinois for road work. So.
Yeah, and the 2014 road program, which this is going to replace some of those roads, we're still paying for that. We're going to be paying for it for another 7 years or so.
Yes.
So yeah, so we're doing things much differently now, and it's for the betterment of the village.
And part of that is having a capital plan, and Amy Wittenberg is here, who was instrumental in getting a capital plan for the village for roads and other items like water mains, other things. So thank you, Amy. Any questions or comments before we vote on this? I don't see any. Clerk Allison, could you please have a roll call vote?
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. That's been approved. Okay, we're at the report section of the agenda. We go around the table. I will start with Eileen. Anything to report?
Yes. As noted, we had a meeting last month, I guess it was, and talked about the development of the Triangle area.
When you say a meeting, what?
Committee meeting for the Economic Development
Thank you.
Committee. Sorry. And a number of things came up. We were looking, as was stated earlier, at costs for the facade. They came in anywhere between $200,000 and $700,000, quite a range. But our next task is to talk to the owner and get his buy-in, and then to look at financing. I think I've already mentioned financing would be helping him get a low-interest loan and perhaps some tax incentives from us. We're also looking at landscaping the Parkway, and we had some really good suggestions from community members who were there, suggesting that we put in native plants, native to Illinois, and I agree with that, and help the butterfly population and all that. So I think the estimates came in between 15 and 20,000. But what we're going to do is design what we want it to look like, and then go out to bid so that we're get a more competitive response. The other idea that we had was, rather than hire somebody to do it, that we invite community members to join us. We did that in Ashbrook when we did the center entrance, and it was really a lot of fun. After that, then the landscapers kept it up. But I think that would be a nice project for the community to do, so we'll see. It's something we're looking into. Pardon me?
Heidi Lopez lives in Ashbrook. She's a landscape designer.
Oh, what's her name?
Heidi Lopez.
Lopez.
She was a former trustee, and she helped us with the Acacia Drive entrances.
So that brings me up to another subject that I talked to at least one other trustee about. And that is that, we have all our committee meetings, and you get these little reports, but it would be nice somehow to be able to share more and get feedback from those of you who are not on our committee. I get a lot of feedback from Brenda, But, you know, if you don't know what's going on, it's hard to do that. So I think that these meetings are village board meetings gives us an opportunity to do that. So if anything I say or any of the rest of you say in your reports, I would encourage all of us to talk to that trustee about what they're doing in their committee if you have feedback for them that would be helpful. Because I got a lot of feedback from Brenda after our last meeting. Were you going to say something, Charlie? Oh, all right. And the last thing we talked about was maybe having, similar to what Sean has over there with his automobile show, maybe an arts and crafts day over there where we bring in vendors. So we're looking at all those things. Sort of a farmer's, but not really a farmer's market.
We talked about that separately.
Yeah, right.
With the art.
Okay, right, okay.
And again, the idea for economic development to look at the landscaping, that's not been approved by the board. It's a committee discussion, and the committee's getting information, and when ready, you'll come to the board with ideas. Of course, if all board members called you and said, great idea or bad idea, it may change what you do going forward.
Right.
But this has not been approved by the board, right?
These are discussions that the committee's having, and our goal is to try to enhance the look of the triangle area so that it looks a lot better.
And we're trying very hard to get all the agendas posted on the website for the committees and then the meeting minutes. So anybody can look at them. And I encourage any trustee to bring up a report monthly or whenever you want about your committees, because that is a great way to get, what's happening. Is that it, Eileen?
Yes.
Thank you. Sean?
Yeah, just briefly, last Monday's car show, not a car show, I forgot cruise night was canceled due to the weather. I believe it's Andy, you're shaking your head, so that was confirmed. So next Monday, the 15th of August.
And we did one a month ago or 3 weeks ago?
Well, I guess a little over a month ago now, because it would have been a month last week, which was our second/first, because we had weather on the first one, and we had 50 cars and 35 cars and probably 100 plus just people stop by to come out and ask questions and walk around on what was a beautiful night that night. So Monday the 15th, I think that starts at 6? 5. Thank you, Chief. 5 p.m.
And I think the businesses were happy that they got some more traffic that night.
Very much so, and I'll just throw this out as an addition. I noticed, I think there's a sign above Driftwood that they now have food too, so it's not just drinks. Because we do allow cocktails in the parking lot for those couple hours, so feel free.
John, did you have something?
Not on that.
Okay. All right.
And John, that's actually, does that ordinance for the liquor apply if we change the dates? Is there going to be an issue with that? I just thought of that. Was that ordinance for specific dates?
I don't recall.
We probably should look at that just to make sure. Sorry to be a buzzkill.
Chris?
No report.
Thank you. Brenda?
Yes. Coming up on August 20th, we're presenting a movie in the park over here at Black Hawk Park. The doors open at 7 p.m. and the food will start at 7 p.m. Last year we started earlier and we ran out quite early. And so hopefully we have everything all set, and it's going to be as well as with the C-Spar. Same thing, cotton candy, salads, hot dogs, popcorn, you name it. So we're really excited. The only thing we need now is just the good weather.
And technically the doors are open, just the food will not be available.
Doors are open, yes, but the food will not start until 7 p.m. Because we want to make sure everybody gets their food.
Anything else?
Yes, probably at the end of the season, we're going to be having a garden meeting, which will take place probably here at the Village Hall. And it's to discuss how everything went over this past season, which it looked very, it was very lush. There was if you go back behind Public Works, the garden plots are overflowing with vegetables and that. And we want to just see what everybody learned, what they would do differently. Are we going to add additional plots for next year? Because, I mean, they're all filled, what the costs are going to be, et cetera. So there'll be more information that'll come out probably sometime in September, and that's Lisa will put it up out there on the website. And that. The other thing that I wanted to discuss too is, and maybe John's going to be bringing it up on his, is the COVID testing trailer, as far as seeing possibly that we can remove it. Okay. I know one of the things that we're doing throughout the village is we are, especially through Acacia, they're having monthly meetings in regards to the landscaping. Or are you having any type of meetings as far as after the road work is completed?
We have meetings regarding construction.
Okay, but not the landscaping.
Not yet.
I think there was one for Acacia or coming up or something, right? Didn't I see?
When it comes up, we do talk about it at the construction meetings, like retaining wall, for example. So.
Okay. Is there a possibility that we could start meetings with, as far as the rest of the construction throughout the village? Example, as far as Plainfield, as far as the Tollway, as far as down Wolf Road, and that, I think that would be a great idea.
So meetings about construction or landscaping?
Meetings about the landscaping and the construction as well. And that, because I never really hear when we're having any type of meetings as far as with the Tollway, what's going on. I know we are trying to get together with the Tollway, but they keep canceling the meeting. And so I'm not sure what's going on there. And the construction that's going to be happening along Plainfield, I just think I'd like to be kind of proactive, and I don't think we have been.
I hear you. I'm trying to map out a plan. So
Yeah, I know at the Tollway, they have, I'm going to say, several meetings a week on different things, right? They do one on bridges, one on the pavement itself, one on all the bridge on and off ramps. So we do not have an overall construction meeting with the Tollway.
But you get feedback as far as what's happening at those meetings, or any input?
We get agendas and then minutes, yes.
Yeah, in the minutes usually are these payouts, this is the schedule, that's it. I mean, they are they are extremely dry, and we would have to change their formatting to
Not informative, and
to
is what you're
get
saying?
current information for the village. But I think I know exactly what you're asking. I'll do a follow-up conversation with you, but I think there's a way to accomplish the goals. So, thank you.
Okay.
Before you change that, in regards to Tollway, the exit from I-294 to Wolf Road, do we have an idea when that's going to be completed?
I don't think it's in the next 6 months. I don't have a good answer on that.
Hold it. The northbound entrance.
The northbound
From Joliet Road.
No.
The off-ramp.
To Joliet Road, the off-ramp to Joliet Road.
To Wolf Road.
To Wolf Road, yes.
Across from the doctor's property.
It's already functional, isn't it?
No, I don't know.
I don't have an update,
The
Charlie.
off-ramp from 294?
Exiting 294 onto Wolf Road has been closed for 3 months now.
Or more, yeah.
Yes. Do we have a rough estimate?
I do not have, other than my estimate of 6 months, but I can get one.
Excuse me.
And one other thing, as far as John, you were going to find out about the sound barrier wall, when it's going to be finished?
Yes, I have that answer too.
Okay, great. And then the last thing is the long-range planning for the facilities. What's the status on that?
I will talk about that in my report.
Okay, thank you.
Charlie?
I have two items. In the planning and zoning and the shed approvals for the Robert Bartlett area, most of those ordinances required vegetation to be put around the sheds, usually it was either the end of June or the end of July. And Andy, would you give us a brief report on how those inspections have gone, please?
Yeah, so most of them passed. They started the plantings. We have a few that we still need to follow up with again. We'll be following up with them again at the end of the month. So, but yeah, I'd say I don't want to. 95% of them are compliant. So.
Okay, and you're following up on the others that aren't?
Oh, yeah.
Directly?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Second item is for introduction into next board meeting. I'm looking to make the motion that would read, I move that any executive session minutes of any Indian Head Park constituted committee be available to any of the elected members of the Board of Trustees. We have at least one and perhaps more minutes of meetings that are not available to members of the Board of Trustees, and so I'm going to make that motion, and then hopefully we'll have some discussion with more specifics on it.
What meetings are you talking about, Charlie?
One at least is police and fire and police. Almost all their business is done in executive session. And they have minutes to that, but that's technically not available to us as members of the Board of Trustees.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Allison, anything to report? No report. Village Treasurer is not here. Village Attorney?
No report. There'll be a request for a closed session later in the meeting.
Thank you. Village Administrator.
The sound wall on the Tollway was taken down. It should be completed. I'm talking about the area from Plainfield Road South to the southern end of Old Town. Should be completed by the end of the year. That's what the Tollway Authority told me this afternoon. There's a COVID trailer, a testing trailer at Indian Head Plaza, and it went in at the very start of the pandemic when testing was really not available. It just kind of showed up, and because it was a public health emergency, the village thought that it was a public need for it. However, since the testing need has been more available elsewhere, we've written the owner of the plaza and the owner of the trailer asking them to remove the trailer. It really isn't allowed under our zoning, and so we're giving them 30 days to get rid of it, and we'll be moving forward with that. But the need is really no longer there, and it's kind of unsightly.
Nice. What happens if they don't move it in 30 days?
We will cite them and force a removal. I am not anticipating a problem, but you never know, but we do have a plan. Long-range facility plan, it's part of in our budget and the goals for the year. We're looking at doing a viability study for each of the 3 buildings that the village owns. Village Hall, the Heritage Center, and Public Works Facility. I'm waiting on an additional quote from another firm. We have one quote right now. What we would really like to do is see long-term, are these buildings meeting our needs? So that is ongoing. Hopefully I'll have something for you next month to initiate the discussion on that.
Question. Are you going out for bid for that, or are you just using Strand?
No, I'm not just using Strand. Because we are using architectural services, we have to follow a procedure dictated by the state of Illinois. So we can either do the request for qualifications process, which would be basically bidding it out, or we can use a firm that we have an established relationship with. The 2 firms that we have a relationship with is Altus Works, who helped us with the church study, and Strand, who is our village engineer. They do this type of work also. So I'm looking for those 2 companies.
Did I hear another question?
Yeah, you said whether or not they are meeting what we need, will they be making suggestions?
Yes,
okay.
Correct. And the final one is Stormwater Report. So in late June, the village received a draft study from Thomas Engineering. The study is not yet complete, so there are 4 sub areas that we're waiting on reports for. So I can only comment on the draft report right now. In general, all in all, the system is working as designed. Looking at it from a macro perspective. There are some areas where we could do some improvements, especially when short duration storms happen. But when we have what is called the 1% chance of it happening a year, the misnomer is the 100-year rain. That just means it has a 1% chance of happening in a year. When we have that event, the stormwater system does what it should. There are nuisance issues, but in general, flooding doesn't happen in the subdivision. But there are some very site-specific areas where we have issues, and mostly it's because there were, in the 45-acre subdivision, there were originally 19 retention areas. Now, some of these are very, very small, and some are larger, but now there are 13. So over the course of however long that subdivision's been there, people have filled in, they've changed the landscaping, they've changed the flow of water, that impacts their neighbors. Of the 13 retention basins there now, 10 of them are on private property. So it's really up to the homeowner to maintain the storm drain on their property or their retention basin in their property. Some do a very good job of doing the maintenance, some don't. About 10 or 15 years ago, a letter was sent out to the residents reminding them of this, and we're going to have to do that again, probably in January. Like I said, there are nuisance issues. I can think of a couple on Thunderbird Drive, but these are mostly people changing the stormwater flow in their yards. So by adding landscaping, that diverts water elsewhere. So we need to work with the individual homeowners on that. We're waiting on the final 4 sub areas, but that's kind of where we are with the stormwater report right now. There are a couple areas where we do need to do some improvements, and Public Works is working on that. We need to raise a couple manholes, help maybe improve a berm area, but in general, from a macro perspective, the storm system is working. And I should also point out that what they call a 100-year rain or 1% chance happening in a year, the model has changed over the last 20 years. Before it was 7.59 inches of rain in 24 hours. Now it's 8.5 inches of rain in 24 hours. So weather patterns are changing, and we're getting more rain more often. So that's kind of where we are with that report.
John, we are planning to have Thomas come out when they're done, right, and do a board presentation. Correct. So again, we have the draft, we don't have the 4 other, right. So that will be happening, correct?
Yes, and because it's a draft, it is subject to change, but in general, that is kind of where we are right now.
And you mentioned the storm basins in individual homeowners' yards and the letter. There's something in the covenant, right, for that subdivision?
There are covenants for individual homes, and we will be addressing those with the individual homeowners. It's probably something that turned up on your deed, and it's something that you probably forgot about.
Well, and we might have had new homeowners come in that may not know, so again, this is kind of a draft, but we've talked about maybe sending the letters every other year or something, reminding homeowners of their obligations.
Yeah,
right?
I've been in my home in that area for over, 16 years, 16 and a half. I'm not aware of any letter or anything on my deed. I do have 2 detention areas in my yard.
Okay.
So that's, so I wonder when that might have been. I don't, Lori or Tom Davis, I know you've been in the neighborhood since it wasn't.
Well, not everybody has.
Are you aware of that?
Not everybody has.
Oh, okay. Only people who haven't, I see. No, I've got 2 and I've never received one.
And then, John, through the years, we have talked to, I want to say, many residents about issues or complaints or stormwater events, right?
And we've even done some improvements in the meantime to help localized issues.
So we've had emails, we've had people send us videos, we've had conversations, we've had meetings. I know one storm, Chris and I were out in the rain checking on things with Public Works. I know Public Works has a hit list of residents that have had issues or concerns. Some of them are the downspouts not connected, so the water is going right by the house, right? Some things that Public Works are help. So we have been hearing from residents, and we have kind of a list of hot spots, right?
Yes. The final thing I want to talk about, earlier it was mentioned that there's a study going on at Wolf and Joliet with stormwater management, and that is not true. That intersection has been identified by the village, not only with the Wolf Road study, but with the Cook County Hazard Mitigation Plan, and now there is a transportation resiliency study that is being kicked off where the village has identified the intersection of Wolf and Joliet Road as a problem area. So other people are starting to look at it, but only from a 50,000 foot perspective, and hopefully we can bring it down to a much lower perspective in the future. But it's just now been identified, and no study is happening as of yet. And that is, I think, the extent of my report, unless if I missed anything.
Did any board member have questions for John that didn't get to ask?
The one question that I didn't get, well, I didn't ask it yet, but the question I had originally asked you was, in the contract, when the wall comes down on the tollway, what is the time frame that they have to have it put back up? I know it was brought up before that they would have it done by the end of December, but I was told by the construction people that they have so many days in order to put up the wall. So that was the question that I was asking before.
I haven't looked at the construction contract with the tollway. I can tell you what the tollway project person who deals with the municipalities told me this afternoon, and she said by the end of this year. Originally, I thought it was going to be done sooner, like now, but the answer I got today was the end of this year.
Can you look at the
I will.
contract? Thank
I
you.
will.
John, I'm going to guess that contract is hundreds of pages. I think maybe asking Katie to look at the contract
that was,
for you.
Yeah.
Do a control F.
All right, thank you, John. Andy, Assistant Village Administrator?
No report.
Thank you. Department heads, police, chief, you got a report tonight? Thank you very patiently for waiting. Save the best for last. You used that joke earlier today. Need new material, chief. Thank you, Chief.
While Andy's passing those, I can talk about the cameras. We're still waiting for our vigilant cameras through Motorola, which were supposed to be available to us in May.
Chief, if I can interrupt, you jump right in. I know what you mean by cameras, but not everybody here. If you could give a brief overview.
Our LPR cameras, license plate reading cameras that the village has decided to add in to our toolbox, they were supposed to be available to us from Motorola back in early April, May. It's now August, and we're still waiting for the ships from China to deliver the product. We keep being told that it's going to be coming soon, coming soon, coming soon. But on a good note from Vigilant, they're having a representative from New York come out to do a training session for us on Monday to give us an overview of how to use the cameras and how to use their software. So,
if I'm following along, they have cameras, but this is the newest model that we're waiting for. Is that right, or am I?
They have not put in any cameras from Vigilant, Motorola.
But I mean, Motorola has had cameras. Didn't we decide to wait for the newer one?
We waited for the version 6 camera to be put in because it was the new and improved. But again, we're waiting and waiting and waiting The other company, Flock, we have 2 of their cameras up. We're still waiting for, or they're still waiting to get their permitting from IDOT to put cameras up on Joliet Road, which we have to have because it's a state road. And I guess Northern District of Illinois, District 1, is dragging their feet. And I guess several of the camera companies have had a meeting with them, and apparently that they've rattled enough cages where the permits are going to be starting to be loosened up and handed out. No time frame on that at all. That's what I have there. In regard to the handout that we just gave you.
If you don't mind, if I can ask the question maybe again for some of the residents who are here, how do we plan to use these cameras?
The cameras are recording all the time. They're capturing vehicles as they travel through the lens of the camera, and they capture the license plate, the make and model of the vehicle, decals, window stickers on the car to help identify the cars. When the car comes through, if they're on the hot list from the state of Illinois, which is uploaded to the different camera companies twice a day, 8 in the morning, 8 o'clock at night. When that hot list is uploaded, it indicates a stolen car, wanted person possibly driving that car, usually the registered owner is who we're going to get. Stolen license plate, lost license plate. There's a variety of different items that we can ask to be notified of. And if it goes as far as a missing person, terrorist watch list, amber list, things of that nature. The officers would then be notified from a cell phone app. It would go off indicating direction that the car is traveling, the make, model of the car, and the license plate. And all that happens within 20-25 seconds. So that's what we're waiting for.
And we're not planning to monitor the cameras. It's only like in an Amber Alert where we would, officer would get a page, right, or a text.
Correct.
Right.
It would be impossible to monitor the cameras. Off the top of my head, Wolf Road for the month of June, I think it was, we had 200,000 cars on Wolf Road for the month. So that's a lot of cars. That was beyond my thoughts. I'm thinking 10,000 cars maybe.
And again, the village looked, what's that?
It's a day.
I thought it was 11,000 a day.
Right.
Yeah. And we talked about getting cameras at all our intersections coming into town, but we thought we would try, kind of put our toe in the water and look at a couple cameras, different vendors, right, to get familiar with the technology and the benefits and maybe the issues, right?
Last year we looked at 5 different camera companies, and Flock and Vigilant were the top 2 contenders. Talking to other police departments, neighboring towns, they all rave about both companies. So they're very good products. It depends on, I don't even know how we're going to make a final decision. From what I've seen so far, they're both great companies.
And last thing for me, and thank you for my questions. Have you started to think about if IDOT continues to drag their feet, are there other places we could put those cameras to get them up and operational to start, seeing the use?
I would just put them up, personally. Ask forgiveness. When it comes down to it, right now Cook County has no regulations in regard to the camera systems. I guess from talking to Flock that county is now possibly looking at permitting. I don't know if they're looking for some fees to be paid, type of deal. The Flock had no real idea on it, but they were talking that county was now looking at permitting the cameras.
So
All right.
Oops, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
So it's only recording, and we're only going to look at it if you get an Amber. Let's use that as an example, an Amber Alert. How long does it take to go through all that footage, or can you put the plate number in and have it pop up if it went through?
I can show you later, and maybe next time we can do a display for us on the monitors, but it's 15 seconds that it gets to the cell phone after it's been captured by the camera. So it's nothing that we're going to look for as far as, we had a car come through town that was an Amber Alert.
Yeah.
It's sent out to the cell phone 15 to 25 seconds.
And Mike, do you want to explain how the Secretary of State or the state police kind of works in with it?
Well, that was the notifications for the hot list. The hot list is sent out twice a day, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that's how the amber alert goes out. What I'm saying is, maybe I'm misunderstanding. The cameras are on for like 24 hours a day, right? And they're
Yes.
filming all the cars
Always
going
going.
by.
They're
And then you
snapshots.
get a
They're
re-
snapshots. They're not film.
Okay, okay. So then you get an alert for an amber alert, rather, and it's got the plate number. How many man hours does it take to go through all those snapshots?
It's automatic.
The
It's in
state-
15 to 25 seconds that we're notified.
The system is updated, so now the system is looking for plate 1234,
Okay.
and the minute plate 1234 goes by, it sends the
Got ya.
text.
Okay, so you can put that in. Okay, I did not
Now,
understand that.
As a separate to that is if I get home tonight and I found out that one of my cars is gone,
Yes.
I can call you, give you my license plate. You put that in the system. How long does something like that take for the system to say, oh yeah, it left the neighborhood 6 hours ago or 3 hours ago?
We can see that immediately. We can
So
do
it's-
search on any plate through any of the. There's sharing. There's camera sharing between all the agencies. All we have to do is put a request out to Palatine, Phoenix, Arizona, and within a day we get permission to use their cameras to search for something.
So how can it help if my home is robbed? And I
It's not going
can't
to.
do that?
Only if you see the car, that it was a
Right,
white
that
Ford
was-
pickup truck.
Okay.
Well,
Then Mike
but
can search on that.
If you know your home is robbed at 8 p.m., say, or within an hour because you went out to dinner, in theory, there would only be that X number of cars, license plates to review. Your house, Wolf Road, right? It'd probably be
Right.
the Plainfield and maybe the Joliet camera, right? So you could get some information. But yeah, until we get to the point of having it at each entrance.
Okay.
Right.
And Mike, maybe to help visualize, if anybody has had a notice from the Tollway Authority or a red light camera, it's similar to that. It's a picture
Yes.
that is the back of the car with maybe 2 or 3 feet around it. That's
Correct.
It. So it's not a video, it's not...
And it's a system also, it's a smart system where we can, like you said, we can put in Ford Explorer or a Ford, and it'll show us every Ford that came down Wolf Road in a certain time period. So it's a smart, both companies are a smart system. So it's not something that we would have to look at and review. Ultimately, for what you're going after, as far as your house gets burglarized or something happens in your neighborhood, eventually, I believe that this is part of the plan for the village, that we'd like to put the cameras at the entrances to all the subdivisions eventually.
Okay.
But that's going to be down the road.
And one of the things we talked about, I believe, was maybe the association wants to buy the camera that could fit into our network, but we haven't got there because we're kind of starting with these cameras.
Correct.
Right. So thank you for all the questions and interruptions. Now to the handout, if you're
The
ready.
handout, this is a program that we've added through our Cook County Dispatch. It's coming out of our E911 file of funds. We've added 3 modules. It's on the back side of the sheet. One is for emergency key holder notifications. So you can put in information on there. Usually the homeowner can log in. You enter your own information, whatever you want to put in there. Basically an address, your phone number, something that we can contact you. You know, we're driving down the street and we find a broken window on your house and you're gone. We have somebody to call. We know how to get a hold of you. There's Vacation House Watch, and Andy, help me out there. What are the other 2 modules?
There's the overnight parking at-risk residents, the key holders.
The at-risk residents deals with your mom, dad, whoever, yourself. You can put in emergency contact. Tom Henshaw. He's my next door neighbor. He's a key holder for my house. If you have to get into my house for whatever reason, instead of us kicking a door in, to see if you're okay, things of that nature. So these 4 modules you control as the homeowner, as the individual living here in town. You enter it. Only the police department can see the information. It's not like it's a public information or a public portal where anybody could get into. It's also a cell phone app, so you can do it off your phone, like anything else nowadays. But all these are, it's another tool. So these are the 4 that we've started with.
So we go to frontlinepps.com or find the app, and we can do all these 4 ourselves.
It's on our the village's website. There's a link to Frontline, and then you select whichever module you need or want to use.
Does this replace Smart 911?
Not at all.
And can you explain Smart 911? Occasionally I make a plug for it.
Before you do that, Chief, though, can I ask a question about this?
Yes,
so,
sir.
Not that I don't trust Tom, but I'm not giving him my key because I have a keypad. Can I put in my keypad in here for you guys to have?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
And what's that number?
So Smart 911 is a reverse system where if something happens in the village, we can reverse, instead of you calling us, we call you and let you know there's a water main break. And it's not just limited to emergency situations. We can notify you of a boil order, a water main break, Flag Creek is flooded, don't go down Keokuk, type of deal. So it's reverse 911 to contact the residents if there's a problem in town that we feel that you need to be notified about.
And it's also a way that I can put in who lives in my house, the pets, the cars, information, so that if the police need to come in, they look at that system and can see information that they may not know, correct?
Yes. The total Smart 911, that is run through the county, I believe. I don't think that we do it. Do we, John? Yeah, the county. That's a Cook County system. So they don't integrate. They're two separate functions, but either one, as long as you have information in there, because Cook County Dispatch has access to this also.
And Mike, in your discussion, you talked about the Cook County Dispatch. Brenda, I think that's one of the success of the village. Could you cover that change to the dispatch, what that saved us and benefits?
A lot of money.
It did. It saved us a ton of money, in that we probably save over $100,000 a year, and that by switching from Southwest Dispatch to the Cook County, and that. But not only that, we used to be able to use the 911. I'm sorry, not the 911, but there's a.
The 911 money.
Cell phone.
Is that what you're?
Yes, yes. Yeah. The cell phone. There's a charge on there that we used to be able to. They would actually send us the check, and we would be able to use that as far as paying Southwest Dispatch. But when that went away, where they had to merge it throughout, we had to condense it. They had to condense it to like larger offices. They then were taking our 911 surcharge, and they were using it for whatever we don't know. And that where with Cook County, we have really flourished with Cook County as far as the funding in that, and they actually use our 911 basically for the billing, and that, and it's been a breath of fresh air.
So not only are we saving $120,000 a year, we're on a better system. They also support the Illinois State Police. So they get new system, I think, every year, every other year, and we get the benefit of riding on their coattails.
Yes.
So we get a lot of benefits, and that was a long process. And I'll shout out Amy Wittenberg one more time, that Amy was involved with that. So that was a good thing we did several years ago.
At first, I was afraid of us going to that. I thought that we were going to be on the south band for Cook County. The south band for Cook County is everything south of Roosevelt Road to the county line. And you have multiple different groups of county on that. You have the patrol feature, you have detectives. They're not public works, but they're different infrastructure that the county runs through law enforcement. But we're on a channel that's called Metro West. On that channel currently, we have Lyons PD, Payables Park, Berkeley, Indian Head Park are the four towns on that frequency. The dispatching is comparable to Southwest Central, but everything else is supplied to us. The laptops are supplied. Our radio system, the radios that we have they're $7,000 radios. They're Starcom is the term of for the radio. They're from Motorola, but we can talk to somebody in Springfield if we had to, and it'll be all done through Cook County Dispatch. They program it through the dispatch center for us.
So thank you, Brenda. Mike, anything else to add?
It's been a quiet month. Adding Marty onto our full-time staff. Andy, we're going to hire you, I guess. Hiring Marty is going to the midnight shift, so we'll have 3 full-time officers on the midnight shift now, and they'll be supplemented with their days off by the part-time officers when they're in school, vacations, regular days off. So we're good to go. And we started the background check on the next candidate off the newbie list.
Chief, can I ask one last question on
Yes,
this?
sir.
Are you recommending that residents sign up for this through this website?
Oh, definitely.
And Andy, I take it we're going to have a link on our website for that? And
It is already.
It is? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll probably use the Simplicity app to pump it up in a month or a week or whatever. Thank you. Anybody else?
Can you let them know how many more officers we're looking to hire?
1 more full-time officer and 3 more part-time officers. We're authorized for 15 part-timers. We have 12 right now. I'm probably going to lose 2 more of the part-time officers who are going to either go off to another law enforcement job or leave law enforcement in the future. And right now we've currently 1 open spot for the full-time position. And we're going to try to hire a newbie person, a younger person that will stay, 15, 20 years with the department, as opposed to the older guys who are retirees from other departments who are, be honest, it's a limited time frame. I mean, I came here in 2013 as a part-timer, and I was hired off our lateral list in 2016. But again, I even have a limited time. I like working here, but the old bones can only do so much. But
Anybody else? Thank you, Mike. Okay, last thing is just information purposes only. There's a building report in the packet. That is a monthly report that goes to the county. We're at the public comment section. Anybody like to make a public comment?
Good evening. I'm Amy Jo Wittenberg, 6120 Timber Ridge Court. I did email John about this week, but I wanted to address the board about pump house repairs. I saw the statement of work for engineering services at the last, I believe it was the last meeting, 22-4, I believe, for about $168,000. This is almost $1 million project, I believe, 900 million. I've seen it in the Public Works minutes. I've seen it in the budget in various places about an IEPA loan. Unfortunately, we didn't get the IEPA loan, but yet we somewhat planned for it. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about some options that I want to make sure the board has looked at before you approve the $800,000 or $900,000 statement of work that will be coming to you after the preliminary engineering. This is a very big project. And I believe it's been in work for, how many years have we talked about this, John?
6+.
6+. So I want to make sure that everybody, because of what Chris brought up, we have worked very hard to get to the point we're at financially in the village. And I think at the fund balance in 22-23 is $1.5 million in the budget right now for water. That's what was online. So if we take this $1 million out of there and we pay out of pocket, John stated to me in an email that we have the money and we can pay for this out of pocket. So factually, we can, right? We have the money. We have a fund balance, I believe, in the water department, $1.5 million. But I would like to ask if we could look at maybe delaying the work, see if the work could be, potentially we could go after the IEPA loan next year. Strand has the opportunity to do this for us and on our behalf, and we could look at delaying the work. The other thing I wanted to ask is there other ways that we could get grants? John stated that we do a lot of grant requests. What grant requests have we done, and could we see online any of the declination or acceptance information of all of our grants? I think all of us want to relish the $1.5 million give back, the 500 in road we just talked about, but what are all the grants that we're going after? Does Strand have the incentive to go after other grants on our behalf or to reapply for the IPEPA loan next year and wait, or would they want to bill for this year, right? What's their incentive to delay? And also, is there an SRF grant that we could get? The Highland Sanitary District just got their entire electrical pump, replacing their pump, electrical equipment, chlorine feed, standby generator, I believe the building with an SEF grant, State Revolving Fund grant for their entire water system. So to not belabor the point, I know there's an impending safety issue, but if there was an impending safety issue, why have we waited 7 years, 5 years? Could the impending safety issue be fixed in an incremental way outside of the $1 million project? So I just want to make sure that everybody is looking at this. We could potentially wait and look at the IEPA grant next year and file again. It's a priority system. We don't always get them. To all of your credits, we got one forgiven for $1.5 million. I think last year, was it, John? So all I'm suggesting here is that we make sure that we keep down the road of looking for all the money that we can, because $1 million project is a huge project. So I thank you for your time, and I know we have 2 or 3 trustees on the Public Works Committee, so I would hope that you guys would all talk about that and brainstorm. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Anybody else? Lori?
It's late. Lori Davis, 6482 Apache. This is for Eileen. Eileen, your committee reviewed proposals from Altus on the facade work down at the, Wolf's Head Mall, as we call it. Are we inclined to pay for that? Are we looking to pay for the facade, the architectural work for the facade?
No.
Out of village funds?
No. The 2 options that we're looking at right now is to help the owner of the building get a low-interest loan, and we may consider doing some kind of tax rebate from the village.
But we're not going to pay for
No.
the architectural fees.
Well, we're looking into ways we can do that too, right? Grants or whatever.
But not with our money, not with public funds?
At this point, no.
Okay, thank you.
And Lori, I think you called it the Wolf's Head Plaza. It's the Indian Head Plaza.
Right.
Anybody else? Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen Kaufman, 6631 Cochise. A couple meetings ago, we talked about the vape and the tobacco sign and the fact that they keep it on past the hours. Can we look into that again? Because they are keeping it on. Last night it was 10:30 and it was still bright and shiny. So it's a really obnoxious sign, and it'd be nice to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. John, you got that on your list? Amy?
Just one other, Amy Eckert, 102 Cascade. One other quick thing that, and I've asked this numerous board meetings. I know Acacia Drive is taking a long time, but we have residents and our property looks like crap in places from where Nicor dug. For their new lines, there's rocks, there's holes. When can we realistically expect that that's going to be taken care of?
The landscaping for Acacia Drive is scheduled.
I'm talking about the damage that has been done to our properties, some personal residents' properties, because Nicor went in and dug their lines to reconnect.
So Acacia
gas
Drive
lines.
would not do Nicor work, right? Would that be Nicor coming back out?
They did come out and roll out some, it wasn't sod, it was the straw stuff that they then threw grass seed in. But we have even places that didn't take. We're just curious to know whether or not that's going to be remediated at any point in time.
We have a meeting coming up, and we can talk to them about that and get
Okay,
an answer
thanks.
to you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I don't see any others. We're at the point of a motion
I'll make a motion to, you're talking about closed session?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn the regular meeting and go into closed
Make a
session.
motion to adjourn the regular meeting at 9:05 PM.
And go into closed session.
Go into closed session pursuant to the review of minutes per 5 ILCS 120/2 C21 and adjourn the regular meeting immediately thereafter.
I'll
We're
second
adjourning
it.
it now and going into closed session. I know what the script says. I'm going off script.
All right.
Was there a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Eileen and Sean. Voice vote, roll call, please.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger. Trustee Eck. Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Okay, that's been approved. We'll take a 1-minute break.